Okay, my friends, welcome back to part two. I'm excited about this. It's looking very nice indeed, isn't it? I must say. So look, the next thing I'm going to do from here, I just want to tidy up some of the centers just a little bit. All right, so with just some paint, I'm going to take some burnt umber and a little black. And I just want to go around and darken some of this center of the sunflowers just a little bit, just to define them a little more. That's all. That's what it's all about. Defining the centers just a little more. They're slightly darker on the photograph, and I think it'll just help them stand out just a little bit better in the painting. So I think this will make a big difference now, and we can. I'm cutting off kind of the edges of the petals as well as I go with this color. So for example, around here, I'm going to just darken it in there. This is sort of it's getting rid of some of those lines from the petals going into the centers. So you can see I'm just sort of with the tip of my brush just dabbing some dark around here and there, because they are slightly darker on the photograph, and I do want to make them stand out just a little bit better from the petals. I don't want them kind of, disappearing into the petals, so to speak. I want to just define them and encourage them to just stand out that little bit more. A little bit of black in the center. I think I'll leave it at that for now, just for the moment, for the time being, as they say. I'm going to get a small pointy brush and just take some black, a little bit of black, and just refine around the edge of one or two of those. For example, there's a little, just like that, just a tiny touch, and then soften it through just here and there. I think just a little bit will make all the difference. I think it does. This big one in the center really is quite dark, isn't it? It really does have an impact, this big one. So I'm just going to perhaps just darken it slightly, just here and there. A couple of little swishes of paint here and there, a couple of, dotting it around, that kind of thing, just to create a little bit of dark here and there on that. No particular reason, it's just something I want to try, just to brighten them up a little bit. This one here is a little bit strong, isn't it? Let's go and soften that away. I will be putting petals in front of all of this now as well, so look, it doesn't have to be perfect, does it? It's just, and at the same time, I don't want to go so far as to ruin the flowers as well, so I'm just being very, very careful. That now looks a bit funny, doesn't it? I'm just not sure about that. You see, as I was saying, it's what I love about painting. You can do something and think to yourself, no, it's not quite right, so I'm going to lighten it with some sienna. Soften some sienna into that. Maybe soften it down into some of the petals as well. So you see, that now just takes the edge off of it, doesn't it? It's not so in your face. Let's do some foliage. My friends, we need to do some foliage on this. Just to tie all of these together. So I'm going to go to my filbert, my small filbert brush, or any flat brush you have will do just fine. I'm using just paint on its own. Little bit of phaylo blue with cadmium yellow. Make a nice rich green. And looking at it, it's simply, I suppose, a couple of hints of colour just here and there in between these. Let's try some black and some yellow. That'll give us a more earthy kind of a green. I suppose all you can do with this really is put on plenty of colour and just make it look busy. The thing about painting foliage in painting flowers is just the hardest part really is trying to make it look busy, like there's a lot going on. I find that's the most difficult part, because it's very hard to paint foliage to look exactly like foliage, especially with flowers, because all you can see really is bits of green popping out here, there and everywhere, and trying to simplify it is probably the most difficult thing. But what I do is I just pop on lots of sections of green. So in here, for example, just kind of fill it in, and you can refine it then later. You can add your details and add highlights and all that kind of thing later on. I'm just trying to make it look like it's kind of full inside with foliage. That's really all. And you can kind of grab some yellow then and sort of go like this, give it a little wiggle, little flicks with the brush just on its own. Do you know what I mean? Just giving the impression of little lights and darks on the foliage. And don't forget now, we will be kind of covering a lot of this with highlights as well. So you don't have to go overboard with this. It's really just to give a little interest to the painting. That's all I can say. I put one or two pieces down here as well on the floor. Grab some rich yellow. So, you know, just little flicks of colour coming out. I don't want to overdo it because I don't want to lose my lovely composition of the flowers. So I'm just keeping it simple. Now you might not be able to see everything here, but you will very soon, I promise. So you can see the way I'm just putting these little flicks in here and there. Really, it's just to catch the light. Little touches of cadmium yellow pale on the tip of the filbert, or even a small pointy brush if you want to use that. It's fine as well. Just to capture the light. Now I'm going to take some Naples yellow, a little phaylo blue and some white. And I'm just going to give this touch of highlight here. And I'll probably switch to a small pointy brush. I have my small pointy brush. Make sure it's nice and clean. Let's mix up a nice bright green. Phaylo blue, cadmium yellow and some white. And you can mix in as much of this as you like. I'm kind of adding more cadmium yellow as I go. I want to keep these warm. I don't want to go for a cool blue sort of a green. I want to go for a nice warm green. So a little touch of turpentine in this just to soften it out. And let's just add some little highlights here and there. And as I said, I'm really not trying to paint individual leaves or anything like that, rather just giving the impression of little highlights on the leaves here and there. And it's just really, I suppose, making it look busy, making it look like there is lots of foliage there. Most of the foliage is covered by the sunflowers, but like we've a nice light here now, you see, isn't that nice? Little light there, and we have another one, kind of, we're going to pop a little bit of light in there. I will then go in with some very rich darks in just a moment, but I just want to catch some of those nice bright green leaves. It's all bits of everything, isn't it? There's a lot of different stuff going on in this photograph. And what I'm trying to teach you here really with this painting is just to simplify the process. I'm trying to show you how I would simplify this type of painting. Now, black and blue and some yellow. Let's go for a dark green. Nice rich, dark green. I do add turpentine into these mixes when I'm doing little highlights and shadows like this. It just makes it much easier to put on, you see. Just go like that. And you see, here and there, you can suggest little tiny suggestions of detail. When I say detail now again, I'm only saying the illusion of detail. A lot of people would sit here for 3 hours and paint individual leaves. I don't do that. I don't think there's any need. It's much nicer to have something kind of spontaneous in a picture, I think, rather than just sitting for 4 hours painting little tiny details. I prefer to be more spontaneous than that. Just grabbing some darks, grabbing a bit of this, a bit of that, and just have a bit of fun with it. You see, I'm not trying to paint anything in particular, just looking around and saying, okay, I might put a bit of dark here, might put a bit of dark there. Let's just try it and see what happens. Now, I'm happy enough with that, to be quite honest, my friends. I'm not going to try and overdo this. There's no point in trying to go crazy with this. It's just about the sunflowers themselves for me. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm thinking I should get a nice small brush now and get some really nice, let's get some detail going. Let's try and refine some of these brush strokes and make them a little more crisp. How would you say? Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Let's make these a bit more crisp. Make them kind of stand out just that little bit more. Let's try it. Cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, because I'm going to go back over now just a little bit on the darker side of some of those petals, and I'm just going to refine some of them with some thick paint. You see that? Just refine them. And these petals, they don't have any particular direction in them. If you look at the photograph, the tips of the petals do have a little bit of kind of shape to them, but for the most part, it's very sort of loose. It's just kind of doing its own thing, so to speak. So I'm going to just put this in now and flick out a little bit of a flick there. You see, just like that. Doesn't matter if you even go into some of those greens, it's absolutely fine. That's what it's all about. Because you see, what's happening then is you're picking up some of the greens and you're moving some of those greens into the darks and all that kind of stuff. That's what I like. I kind of like moving colour around the canvas. That's the type of painting I like to do. So you're complementing the painting by picking up certain colours and moving them, mixing with other colours on the canvas. And that's kind of, for me, that's what brings a painting to life. It's just my opinion. I just love a painting like that. Now I'm going to come down and pop a few, while I have this, I'm just going to pop a few suggestions of petals here and there, down below on the ground, or wherever it may be. Just, it's literally just putting shapes of colour, just little dabs of colour down on the floor. You could paint actual sunflowers down here if you like. We could maybe do one like that, okay? Just by grabbing some colour and popping it on. You see, just like that. It doesn't have to be a very complicated story to the painting. I'm just sitting here having a bit of fun with my paint. That's all it is. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then all I have lost is a little bit of time. Isn't that right? One or two more over here. I think I will just try and paint one or two nice little petals over here and put a center in some of them. And I think that'll just complement the painting anyway, and it'll just help kind of bring some of them down. Now I'm going to just clean my brush quickly, grab a very bright colour. Let's get some titanium white and cadmium yellow pale. And I'm just going to hit some of these with that nice rich bright colour. So immediately that just really sort of catches your eye, doesn't it? Nice and bright, nice rich colour. So you can see all I've done is put a few little bits and pieces down here. Scribbles of paint, that's really all it is. Little scribbles of paint. Now I'll take some blue and make a nice green. Bit of blue, bit of black, and a bit of yellow. We can make ourselves a nice dark green. And can pop a little bit of green in between those. Make a nice green here now. Let's try some burnt umber and some cadmium yellow. Touch of blue. Just mix up a nice little green. You can go up in front of the vase as well. That just pushes the vase backwards slightly. Then what I'm going to do is just start putting in a dark center on some of these again. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, and let's just put in a little dark center there, and we put one in this, just really to give the impression that there are one or two sunflowers just down here, little bits and pieces. Then I'll take a little bit of black with my pointy brush and I'll just go around the edge of some of those again, just to help them stand out just a little bit more. And I'll take maybe some burnt umber with the black and just add a few little darks here and there. Now we also have a little bit of shadow just down under these, don't we? So I'm going to pop a little dark colour. It's kind of a bluey colour, a bit of dark colour down underneath some of those. And I'm just going to simply drag it across on the dry canvas, look. And I think all those little small things make a big difference. You can see how loose I'm being with this. I'm not trying to paint this like a photograph. I'm just having a bit of fun. That's all I'm doing. Having fun with some colour. Now I'm just going to fix the exposure on this for a moment. There we go. This camera has a habit of kind of adjusting itself in its exposure for some reason. It comes and goes, so I have to keep checking the camera to make sure it's okay. And the colour just goes down slightly every now and then. I do apologise. What I'm going to do now is grab I'm going to get some nice bright colour on the vase. I'm thinking I need a light blue. I'm going to go with phaylo blue and white and a touch of magenta. Just a little. And I'm going to pop a nice bright highlight on that. Take a bit of white as well. And on the other side then, what I might do on the other side is get like a mauvey colour and just add a mauvey highlight on this side. So it's what I would call a shadowed highlight. So something in the shadow which is maybe getting reflected from a light source somewhere. You can get those as well. That's a little bit better. So I'm going to just soften that with my soft brush. Soften them in just a little. Then I'm going to start refining some of the bright highlights on these flowers. So I think I'll stick with, I'm going to change brushes. I'm going to try a nice round brush, a kind of a medium round brush, something like this. Nice simple round. I'm going to try and get some nice rich highlights on this now. Some white, cadmium yellow. I think that should do. Plenty of cadmium yellow in this. And I'm using just paint on its own, all right? I'm hoping this works now, because what I want to try and create is the light coming from a certain direction. And I'm just refining the shapes of some of those petals as well. Now what I'm doing is I'm putting on the paint and I'm just leaving it soften out itself, you see? So just pulling it from the tip in and leaving it flicking. Keep cleaning your brush in between. That helps. So already it's starting to kind of jump out at us, isn't it? Now I'm no expert at painting flowers. I don't paint flowers that much, to be quite honest. But when I do, I just like to keep it simple, you know. I don't like to go to too much trouble with flowers, because, you know, some artists are good at landscapes, some artists are good at flowers, others good at, you know, painting still life, fruit and all that kind of stuff. My domain, really, my expert domain, not my expert domain, but my favourite subject is landscapes. So I don't tend to focus too much on painting flowers, to be honest. And you could probably see. But I do love sometimes trying these types of paintings where you can see it's just a little flick of a brush, just enough to capture the light. I do love these types of paintings. So I'm going to put a few in here now, like that. Just refining. Again, refining some of the petals. And I will then finally use a pointy brush just to get some of those edges nice and crisp and pointy. But really, for me, it's just really relaxing to paint flowers like this. You know, I just love how the light kind of just catches some of the edges of the flowers and it misses other pieces. It's just, I find that very relaxing to paint. It's a really nice way of painting. See, that's quite nice, isn't it? I like, and look, it doesn't have to have any particular structure to it. You don't need to be able to see individual flowers. For me, I don't think so anyway. Just showing that it's a mass of petals kind of intertwined, that kind of a way. That for me is much nicer, I think. But it's up to yourself. If you want to sit there for 4 hours painting petals, absolutely, that's fantastic. I'm just trying to simplify this for my friend Jonelle. I hope I have simplified it a little and not gone into far too much detail with it, but you can see all I'm doing is giving little flicks of colour here and there just to, I suppose, catch the eye. I mean, even at that, you would probably get away with that. But I'm going to just finally use my small detailed brush to go in with some very bright highlights. Titanium white with lots of cadmium yellow. Make a very whitey yellowy mix and a little turpentine just to soften it out. And let me see now where we're going to put this. Let's see if we can catch some real bright highlights. A lot more white, I would think, actually. Very whitey yellow. And I might oversaturate this now and ruin it. There's every chance of that happening. I know now I'm going to probably have people on the comment section saying, you know, if they're probably expert floral painters and all that kind of stuff, saying, oh, it's all wrong, it's this, it's that, this is wrong, that's wrong. To be honest, I don't mind. Please do. We're all here to help each other as far as I'm concerned, and if you can help me learn something about floral painting, then all the better. All the better, because that's what I like. I like people teaching me just as much as I help teaching other people. Catching some of the edges. I don't want to kind of lose it now. I don't want to be over the top with some of the highlights. So I might play it safe and just be careful. I think I'll just leave it, to be quite honest. You know, for fear of ruining the painting. That's what I always say. If you overdo something and keep going at it, you can ruin it, can't you? So I think I'll err on the side of caution and maybe quit while I'm ahead. But I feel I've captured the painting. I feel like I've got what I wanted out of the painting. I think one more thing I might try is a palette knife with lots of cadmium yellow, because at the end of the day, these are sunflowers and there should be lots of bursts of yellow in these. So I could just grab the palette knife with some yellow and pop some yellow into some of these petals. How about that? And I'm not kind of going any particular direction or shapes. I'm just creating a little swoosh with the knife to show the impression of maybe some petals. Again, you could probably call this a bit of an abstract painting with the type of techniques that I've used. It's up to yourself what you would like to say, but you know, I'm quite happy. I think this has turned out quite nice. And I didn't try to over complicate it either. You can see the way I just kind of kept everything nice and loose, which is just the way I like to do it. Everyone is different, but I do hope you have enjoyed watching, and I hope you've learned something from it, I suppose, more importantly. But I think I've managed to create the impression that I wanted. This was the sort of impression I wanted to get at the beginning. I didn't want to be trying to paint a photograph. Do you understand? Too many artists out there are focused on trying to paint photographs all of the time, and it just gets, I don't know, for me it just gets a bit boring sometimes watching all of these artists, and they're trying to paint absolute copies, which is fantastic in its own right, okay, but sometimes they just feel sort of emotionless, you know. You need to have a bit of freedom when painting, so to speak. Keep it simple, have some fun. I'm going to leave it at that, my friends. One more little thing I need to do, actually. Where's my pointy brush gone? There was one more little thing I wanted to do. Oh yes, my brush has fallen on the floor. I want to just take a couple of dark greens, just for 1 second there now when I show you. I just wanted to put a couple of little squiggles here and there. And then just maybe just 1 or 2 little highlights on those. Just 1 or 2. And look, I could stay here for hours really, to be honest. But I think this is all I want. My friends, I think I'm going to say goodbye to you all. Thank you so much for watching. And look, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's been huge fun, immense fun. Look, Jonelle, if you wanted to make those petals pop a little bit more and make them even bigger and stronger, you absolutely could do that. I was just trying to simplify it for you and show you my impression on the scene. Do you understand what I mean? So look, for example, you could just make these one big petal instead of little small petals. You understand what I mean? Like that. It's entirely how you want to do it. And I will just maybe add some dark. Finally, just add a little bit of dark around some of those, like that. So there's all these little things that you can do if you like. But my problem is sometimes I can overwork something and it can spoil the painting. So I do just try to be a little bit careful when I'm painting these. So I just want to refine some of them, that's all. Go in there with a little bit of dark colour. And that's absolutely fine. Could maybe add a bit of light to the ones down at the bottom. Just a tiny bit of light. It's very kind of, how would you say, very impressionistic, isn't it? Almost impressionistic. So there we go. My friends, thank you so much for watching. I think that's quite a nice little bit of an abstract scene of some sunflowers, but I quite like it. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Very happy with that. So I'll turn the camera. Hope you can see me all right. And I will say, thank you so much for watching. Jonelle, thank you so much for your suggestion. I had immense fun painting this. I hope I didn't overcomplicate things too much for you. And just maybe show you how you can simplify something that looks really, really complicated and just do it in steps. But what I would say the most important thing with something like this is to paint the centers of the flowers first, just so you know where each one is, and it'll give you a sense of what it's going to look like when it's finished. So thank you so much for subscribing, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support on Patreon. That means a lot to me. It really does. And I hope you enjoy that last landscape we done on Patreon. I actually have it here. I'd like to show you what we're doing on Patreon as well, just if you're curious. So this is the landscape that we finished over on Patreon. I quite like it. Lovely kind of eye-catching colours. A lot of this done with a palette knife as well, scraping paint onto the canvas. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing as well over on Patreon. If you'd like to pop over and take a look and support me, I'd sincerely appreciate that. But it's a lot of fun. Lots of fun stuff going on. thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon. I'll be back with another tutorial imminently. Okay, thank you very much. God bless and happy painting.